I get this thing to advance. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm with Bounteous. Joining me as panelists today are Chris Holly, John Bordelon, and John Evans. I'll let them introduce themselves. Chris, take it away.
All right, thank you, Dean. So I'm Chris Holly with Products Up. I am the North American Channel Sales Manager, and Products Up is a Berlin-based Germany SaaS software company. We have the distinction of being the only true no coding required automated syndication vendor in the marketplace. And that allows you to connect to all of your e-commerce channels, marketplaces, retailers, and any marketing channels that you use. And an additional plus, as of last month, Gartner designated us a cool company, which is about as cool as I get in my lifetime, I guess. Anyway, we are a proud partner of Akeneo, where we have a native connector to their cloud offering, and well as Bounteous, who's one of our preferred SIs and a great player in this space for data management. And thrilled to be here today with the team.
John?
Hi, I'm John Bordelon. I'm the Director of Data Management at Bounteous. Just a little background on Bounteous. We're a full service digital agency. So we cover, engineering, UI, UX, product management, analytics and insight, and data management. We're proud partners of Akeneo and Products Up, like Chris said, and we're certainly glad to participate.
And hello, everybody. My name is John Evans. I work in marketing at Akeneo. We are a leading provider of product experience management solutions. And our main product is known as Akeneo PIM, it's a product information management tool. Our customers use our solutions to help them unlock growth through delivering great product experiences. And some of the examples you see scattered across the screen here are indicative of the kinds of use cases and kinds of objectives that our customers are pursuing. And our customers include both B2C and B2B manufacturers, brands, and sellers and distributors. So our product, again, as I mentioned, is a PIM, and it brings the data governance aspect of today's webinar. So that's the angle that I'll be talking about. And I'm really pleased to be here with our partners, Products Up and Bounteous, and I'd like to thank you guys for inviting us to participate in the event today.
So what we're going to do today, folks, is we're going to actually ask you some polling questions. Those will take like no more than a minute or two, and then I will hand a question off to our panelists, okay? So let's get started. First polling question, do you currently sell products through marketplaces other than your own e-commerce website? We'll give you guys a minute or two, about a minute, I should say, to answer this question, and we'll display the results. Okay, here we go. So here's our results. About 72% of you have are syndicating to other marketplaces. 22% are not doing it right now, and one of you doesn't know at this point. So let's continue on. Our first panelist question: what are the most common challenges you see with marketplace syndication? Chris, why don't you start us off?
Sure, there are several. It starts with, first of all, number and complexity. If you're selling through a single distributor and they have a simple, hey, we need these 10 data elements, then it's fairly straightforward. But if you think about it, most people are on Amazon, there's vendor and seller. You could be on Google, you could be in a couple of countries. Countries have different languages. You're selling through Walmart, it's 1P or 3P, Wayfair. All of a sudden you're looking at, I don't know, 5, 10 different channels. And that complexity builds exponentially. They're not all the same. Each channel has its own data requirements. Each of those data elements has a different format. The template management, they change them often without notice. And then you have the whole issue of, do we connect via item setup sheet, spreadsheet, or API? And it ends up being an awful lot of manual labor for clients. And the other one that's often overlooked is, where is the data? You may be asked for a data element from one of your vendors and you might not have it. How do you fix that hole? So those are some of the challenges that we see across the board with marketplace syndication.
John or John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think another angle to keep in mind is, you know, as a business, how do you choose which marketplaces to engage? There are lots of opportunities out there, and you have to sort of figure out how whether a marketplace represents a good opportunity for you, whether the effort involved in maintaining and sort of executing the syndication strategy makes sense for your business. I think that's also one of the largest challenges we see out in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I would echo what both Chris and John said about the challenges with the marketplace. I guess, you know, you think about syndication, the idea is to expand your reach and get to more channels and more buyers. And each of those channels, as Chris mentioned, has a different set of rules. You want to deliver a great product experience to attract those buyers and those shoppers. And so the major challenge that we see is, you know, there's the feed management part where we've got to be able to respond to what the given marketplace wants to have from information. And then you've got to find that internally in your organization, potentially from your suppliers. And you've got to have a place to align all that information and prepare it so that it can be deployed to the channel. So the first part is just making sure that in your product catalog management environment, you've been able to identify which fields, which values, and the length, the character length on a given field, for example, that all of that stuff is ready to go so that you can quickly get your products for sale. So that's the first major challenge. And then the second one is during that entire process is how do you coordinate the work across your different teams? A lot of companies that we work with will have a team that's dedicated to their e-commerce site. They may have another team that works on their print catalog, and then they'll have another team that's working on a marketplace syndication. And so they all have to share information and need to have an efficient and productive process in order to wrangle that data, get it set up, and then deployed. So those are two key parts there, and I think the data governance is probably the second one that is, you know, very, very critical.
Well, that's a great transition, John, because the next question is about data governance. Just so we have an understanding here, data governance is the process of managing the availability, the usability, the integrity, and the security of the data in an enterprise system. Effective data governance ensures that data is consistent and trustworthy and doesn't get misused. So our question two here is, our polling question two here is, on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is no data governance and 5 is a comprehensive product data governance program, how do you rate your company's current level of data governance? Again, we'll give you about a minute to get back to us, and we'll show you the results. Okay, here we are, the results. Pretty much everyone has some form of data governance, but we're seeing lots of 2s and 3s. So, you know, there's obviously work to be done on the data governance side. And as it pertains to syndication of product data, let's take a look and ask the panel what they think. So how does data governance impact product syndication? John? Not John, sorry, John Evans. I got two Johns.
Yeah, I'll start since I brought it up in the last question there. Well, I'd say it has a really positive effect. And I think data governance is one of those terms that actually has a fairly broad definition. I'm glad, Dean, that you provided one at the beginning there, but it also ranges from control over the data. It's also control over the people involved and the processes and whatnot. So in this context, I think it has a very positive impact. It's very complementary to a syndication solution. Again, the idea with the PIM tool, the product information management tool, is to try and ensure that your catalog is set up and correct and configured for the information that's going to go on your given channel or channels, ensures that the product data is complete, and then provides a measure of workflow so that you can manage the process internally, control those processes, garner approvals and things like that. So those data governance capabilities and those process management that a PIM can provide, I think, is really helpful here.
Yeah, I would add to that. At the end of the day, you can look at data governance as almost like your fiscal controls for your data, ensuring that you've got that data quality that you need to really keep the operation moving forward. What it really does is it simplifies the effort involved in maintaining the data over time and as you scale.
And I'll go that one further. When I talk to a client, I show a graphic and it always has a product information management system in the middle. We recommend that as the preferred architecture. I might go as far as to say, if you want to do outstanding e-commerce, you need that data governance as that, they call it the golden file or the golden record, one source of the truth. I think that's key. And we absolutely recommend that. And it does more than just impact the syndication. We can syndicate without a great data governance model. It's not perfect, but it works. But if you take advantage of the economies of scale within your organization in order to have access to your data, but also just think brand awareness and consistency in brand, so that you spend all this money in an organization out there in the marketplace. Well, you go on an e-commerce website, and if those images, that text doesn't match your value prop from that golden file, you've just undone however much you've spent and however much time you spent building the brand. So it's a huge piece, and I think it's a best practice.
Wonderful. Our next polling question. How many of you use third-party tools to facilitate product data governance and syndication? Once again, we'll pop this up and we'll give you a few minutes to respond. Almost here. Okay, here comes the results. 32% of you see PIM, 11% of you say syndication, 26% have both, 21% have none, and a few of you weren't sure. So, all right, let's get on to our next panel question. So panel question 3. What do you think are the advantages of using data governance and feed management together? And could you provide some examples? John?
So yeah, I think the easiest way to put it is that it's about fewer headaches. When you look at what's involved just from each side of it, whether it's the feed management or the data governance, you're looking at quite a lot of work potentially at standing those regimens up, those platforms up, and getting things up and running. What you get by leveraging the tools together is you sort of offload a lot of that heavy lifting onto the platforms so that your teams can really focus on growth instead of process. And that's really, the whole idea of these platforms. It allows you to realize multipliers and allows your team to sort of execute against, real value added activities instead of things that are just needed to keep the lights on. I would say, that's really the meat and potatoes of it.
Hunter, Chris?
Yeah, I'll pick up from there. So, you hit on it. To me, it's this whole idea of what's the highest, best use of your time in your IT shop, or if it's managed by the business team, by those folks. The consistent data quality across the board is something that you take for granted, but it's huge in terms of success of your selling activities and such. With organizational efficiency, to use PIM gives everyone in the organization the opportunity to see the data and standardize it. It allows for easy download and access to folks. You combine that with an equally easy to use syndication tool. You get this organizational efficiency. You don't have to maintain 20 different sets of images in your PIM for each of your e-commerce channels, because you can quickly make the tweaks, either size or background, in your feed management tool, and it takes 3 clicks type thing. And then finally, I mentioned it earlier, I'm a huge believer in this brand consistency. Kenio's literature is all about product experience management, and that's the holistic approach. And you cannot have inconsistent images, inconsistent descriptions, inconsistent pricing or packaging out there. It just destroys the value of a brand. So I think there's just across the board, we find it's very easy to get cross-functional teams to buy into an automation project around data governance and syndication, because it strikes value props of so many people in the organization.
Yeah, you guys both make great points. And I guess I was thinking about the responses that we saw. So it looked like there were some folks who are using a PIM, but not using a syndication tool, and others who are using a syndication tool, but not a PIM. And I guess I would say to the folks who are using the syndication tool and not a PIM is that you're probably, I would imagine, getting a lot of benefit out of that and being able to automate your feeds and be able to control what information goes in those destinations. But you think about my assumption would be, based on what we heard from companies before they became Akeneo customers, was that they were wrestling with, a hairball of spreadsheets and source raw product data in a variety of systems. And they're still having to do that, but then once they're getting ready to distribute it, that's where they're getting a lot of value. And if you could imagine taking that, getting those same kind of productivity and efficiency and accuracy benefits you would get and farther back into the stream, where I think, as Chris pointed out, that normally the architecture has a PIM in the middle. This is where you can manage all of that stuff. So even if you do have different image requirements, for example, on different sales channels, if you can get that centralized view, that system of record of your product information in the PIM, that brings a lot of value so that you can more easily manage the process and understand that you're going to get that consistency of product experience. One of the things that Akeneo uses as a guiding principle is that you're not going to get a great customer experience unless you have a great product experience. And we believe that using a PIM as a place to manage all that information and then leverage a syndication environment like Products Up is a great 1-2 punch in order to make sure that process is as streamlined, as governed, for as consistent, accurate, and high quality data as possible, so that you create that same good brand image no matter where customers are interacting with you. Because it's highly likely they're going to do a lot of research and look at lots of different places to get informed.
Thanks. Hey, I was going to add one thing, is that you go to Amazon and you go to a consumer product, say something like mayonnaise, and you type that in. What you'll see is a lack of data governance by certain manufacturers, because they'll have the exact same product being put up on the internet by through to the Amazon platform by a number of their distributors. And what you see is just a wide variety of image representations of the product, which does not create a good overall brand experience for the manufacturer. And you can just do that test yourself. So let's get to our last polling question. How many people do you have currently working on product enrichment and/or content syndication? Once again, to give you a minute or so just to kind of get this information out, and we'll share this. Okay, we're just about done. Here we go. Here are the results. 11% of you have no one who's focused on this. 22% has one person, 50% 2 to 5, 11, and you can read the rest of it for yourselves. But we actually encountered a company that had over 40 people that were dedicated to managing the product information for syndication. So I mean, it can be really expensive to do this without these proper tools. So our last panelist question is, can you contrast the effort to manually syndicate product data versus using an automated marketplace syndication platform like Products Up? This is natural for you, Chris.
I was going to say, that sounds like one of my questions. So a couple of things. The first is, there is an impression in this business that everything is magically API based, and that's not the case. The market is distorted by the big four, which is Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, and Amazon Seller. Outside of that, 95% of the marketplace still uses the item setup sheet, which is basically a multi-tabbed spreadsheet. So you've got cut and paste issues. You have, and in many cases, you have to put string code inside individual cells in there. You have the issues of the template management. Am I working on the most current version of my Wayfair product category? Have they changed product categories on me? That type of stuff. There really is no best practices. There's a couple of little white papers out there for if you're pushing to Amazon or pushing to Google, but not much beyond that. And there's certainly no data analysis that says, is your description basically meeting the need of Google Merchant Center or something like that. And you find out when it's either bounced and you can't list your product, or you get charged back by some vendors for incomplete or wrong data, or you get graded out. I'm working with a customer who was thrown off of eBay for stockouts because they couldn't get their inventory information correct on their listing. So it's just the big kludgy manual project, and you see it's 2 to 10 people is kind of the 80-20 rule on this call. That's very typical. So with a platform, the idea here is that you're getting the benefits of automation, but plus. So you do a one-time setup. You connect to your PIM or your backends. You pull them into the environment. You map to your individual sheets. But you get more than that, because you do get template management from a subscription vendor like Products Up. And more importantly, you get analytics. So actually within our tool, you can click on each of your data elements like description or price or packaging. And we run real-time analytics, which would tell you how you compare with the data standard for the sheet. And more importantly, we just don't tell you there's an issue. You click a little blue button and they fix it on an automated basis. And then you can actually watch your readiness approach 100%. So the value of an automated delivery is, before you send it, that you will be 100% to the standards of whichever channel that you have. No rejections, no bad grades, no chargebacks, anything like that. So it really gets down to not just the basic automation, but do you get a value add on top of it? And I think that's the big difference when you step up in conjunction with a PIM and something like a Kenyo, which has a phenomenally easy to use business user interface. It's the same thing with ours. These tools also allow you to push out of an IT shop and closer to the business users and the end users in your organization, in your marketplace. That's the perfect vision that we're trying to deliver as this combined solution.
John or John?
Yeah, I would say, I would echo all of what Chris said, and then I would also add, perhaps not as widely understood, is that products like, or platforms like Products Up include access to a whole library of essentially syndication destinations that have already been mapped, already been established, and are natively supported. So if you were ever wondering like what sort of syndication destinations there might be out there for you, I would just look in the library. So it's like, oh, I didn't know I could, I didn't know we could have access to these retailers or these e-commerce channels. And the fact is, like, with that, you just a click, push of a button, and now you're up and running. So the barrier of entry to even trying out some of these syndication destinations have just fallen dramatically on these platforms, because they have done a lot of the lead work for you in advance. And that's something to really sort of keep in mind from a business perspective.
Last comment, John?
Well, I guess I would just say that, for the folks who've got more, there was a number of people on the curve there, looked like trending towards the 10 and above, or 6 or 10 people. And, when you've got that many people, perhaps doing different parts of your catalog, or whether you're organized by, the destination, or whether it's by the product line or product group or whatever, I think a PIM can actually help facilitate that process as well. And it's particularly important when you start to get more and more people involved. You can control what they can do. You can control what they have access to. Maybe you don't want certain product lines to be seeing what other product lines are doing. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you can also, by using the controls in the PIM, be able to define which attributes are required. And that could be assigned by a channel as well. So something that has to appear on Amazon but doesn't have to appear, on Walmart or or eBay, you can actually control that, and it'll actually help you make sure that you get all of the right data configured and set up and ready to go down the Products Up lead feed. So I think that as your team grows, the need for governance becomes even more apparent.
Wonderful. So we have about 3 or 4 minutes left for questions. Does anyone in the audience want to ask any questions of us?